knowledge about soil health. Because crops, yes, population has increased, yes, we're asking more. So I think we need to turn the question around also of fertilizer and soil health. I think we have to talk about soil health and the role of fertilizers in maintaining soil health. And to listen better and more to people working with the soils on a daily basis on what that means for them, and work together with them as scientists, as development community, in finding the better innovations, the better answers. I'm very pleased to hear also the Minister of Rwanda say, that we see an important role of organic matter, of organic fertilizers, of fertilizer in the circular economy. Why is it that we're trucking on a daily basis enormous amounts of organic matter into landfills where we leave it to rot, where we could, with a bit of innovation and some investment in that innovation, maybe look at how can we turn that back into the soils where it originally came from. So that's also where we as IKEA Foundation are supporting partners to work on those innovations together with farmers, together with scientists, and together with investments to develop the business cases for that. And I would also like to call out, in a way, to governments in the African countries to look at this and to look at how can we create a level playing field for those kind of innovative products, and not just make the subsidies that there are there available for the synthetic fertilizers, but also for the organic-based fertilizers, so that farmers are capable of affording them and finding the right mix of organic and synthetic fertilizers to maintain their yield, to maintain their soil health, and to be able to provide the healthy crops that we need for our healthy diets. Thank you.
And I'm here to preach about the lime and gypsum story. So what I love about it is since you said we need to be natural, I think let us consider soil as human body. We as human the importance of supplements. So when we talk about soil amends, such as agricultural lime, which amend acidity, they're like supplements. They're very important, and once you use it very effectively, you're going to have a very healthy body. So from that angle, and I've been for the past 5 years, we, Dodoma Cement, we have been investing too much in providing solution whereby where there's acidity, we do sell and manufacture agriculture lime, and where there's alkaline, we also provide agriculture gypsum. However, for the past, I'm just talking about the past 5 years, there has been a very low appetite. By 2020, we were able to reach to almost 50,000 smallholder farmers. So in terms of knowledge, they are aware about what is required for them to prosper in agriculture activities. However, their appetite of applying or using lime to their cultivated land is still very minimum. And as a result, they don't see value in whatever they're aiming at or in their production daily. So what we think and what I recommend, I think nations government, they need to amplify on the use of these soil amends, because they're very vital to especially to smallholder farmers. We as Dodoma Cement, we don't feel a bigger challenge when it comes to commercial farmers, whereby they know exactly what they're supposed to do. If I recall you back to the picture displayed by a presenter from Melinda Gates, you saw there were two farms. One, it might be somebody who's very knowledgeable on the importance and proper application or proper adaptation of these soil amends. But the other smallholder farmers, which was back behind, somehow, somewhere, they lack this kind of knowledge on the importance of this particular supplement. So to us, we see and we need our government to amplify on the better use or on the importance of using soil amends such as agricultural lime for them to get bigger results. Not only that, and for the smallholder farmers, we also need to understand that they listen to what the government says. So this also calls on capacity building to extension services. Most of the private extension service officers are well equipped when it comes to proper adaptation of soil amends. But when it comes to government extension service, these are the people who live with smallholder farmers, and these are the custodian smallholder farmers. Do we take time to understand what kind of language are they speaking to smallholder farmers? So I think a lot need to be done to ensure that more capacity building is given to extension officers, especially from the government side. Not only that, I also believe in local content, whereby as African, we also need to invest and promote locally investors that are providing solutions to the continent. I can also speak to Dodoma Cement. Currently, there is a need, for instance, in Tanzania, to have proper investment come to granulated lime, which is a little bit more effective in Tanzanian perspective, as well as it's cost less compared to the rest of the lime. So what we need as a private sector as well as the government, we need to support this solution provider, especially that has a local test, because we understand what the local needs. And not only that, another thing that I think we also need to build on is to support people who are dedicated when it comes to soil health agenda. I can be very sure that a lot has been done with people like SAGOT, whereby SAGOT and other partners, they have initiated a place whereby we have customized agriculture agronomy for agriculture line. So that means if we support people like SAGOT and the rest of the developing partner to preach something about soil health, I believe that we're going to reach the health soil vision that we as Africans we are demanding. The other thing that I also need to pose as a challenge is that we always speak about soil acidity and we forgot about soil alkaline, which is also another challenge that most of the irrigation schemes are facing in Africa. So as we envision how to protect and promote our soil health, we should also provide a mechanism, a solution, whereby we're going to amend with soil lime as well as agriculture gypsum, so that at least smallholder farmers to increase their appetite to the fertilizer. Why are we saying this is very relevant is because you might use 1,000 of fertilizers, but if you don't treat your soil, you're not going to get appropriate results. So we need to combine soil amends with fertilizers, gossip that at least smallholder farmers they can easily get a test as well as to see tangible results in the investment that they put in agriculture. And that's why people like Dodoma Cement, we are here to serve our smallholder farmers with the best agriculture lime as well as the best agriculture gypsum. That's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have a few minutes left. I'm going to ask you just an advice to President Kalibata, who is organizing the Fertilizer Summit. If you have to tell one thing that we should not do in everything we are talking about, like what could be that? To say, don't do this, otherwise you're going to be in trouble with fertilizer and soil health. Just 1 minute for each person. Let me start with Bernard and you, Teresa. This is one thing we should not do.
We should avoid using new terms, new terminology that describes the same thing. I'm often wondering, The speed with which new terms are invented is faster than the speed with which maize yield increases in Africa. It's not about regenerative agriculture, it's not about agroecology, it's not about ISFM, it's about the practices. As my colleague from the Domalam has explained very well, it's about the practices that people can use, adapt and respond to all those points.
Tilaun?
They don't rush. It's a process. It's a very slow process. Carbon build-up in the soil takes years. There is a need for transition. There's a need for investments, and farmers are very risk-averse. So somebody has to share the costs and the benefits. So it's a process that should come along with support. So don't try to push everything overnight.
Yeah, next.
So I would suggest that we invest more aggressively in breeders and breeder technologies so that they can bring forward seed platforms that actually will benefit smallholder farmers, benefit soil health, and provide the ecosystem services that are necessary.
I would say let's not make the same mistakes we've done before. And specifically, we need massive investments in soil health monitoring to fill these gaps. At C4E Craft, we've been leading systematic soil and land health assessments, coupling it with participatory and assisted citizen science tools to engage farmers, landowners, pastoralists to monitor soil health so we can finally fill those key knowledge gaps that people keep complaining we have about how land management influences and impacts soil health indicators.
Yeah, thanks. I think I would recommend don't forget to invite the smallholders, the SMEs, the innovators to the table to talk about future-proof products that we can have and need to have to sustain our soil health in Africa.
Imagine he has just stole my idea, because I had the same idea that, Madam President, don't forget the smallholder farmers. They're the best testimonial of what needs to be done, because they are the ones that are going to tell us why are they not adapting the situation. And the last one, don't forget the correction for alkaline in Africa is still a big problem. Thank you.
So let's give a round of applause to our panel. So I'm going to call to Mr. Sunga, CEO of Southern Africa Confederation of Agriculture Union, to come and give closing remarks for 5 minutes. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thanks very much for the panel. I'm not thanking them on your behalf, but I just wanted to echo the last two voices about the representation of those that are at the center of what we're talking about, which are the farmers, predominantly smallholder farmers. It's indeed a privilege for me to say a few words. I'll speak from my heart as well. In any case, I'm not a scientist, so I got no option other than to speak from my heart. And just to make a few observations to try and echo some of the sentiments expressed here, but also give a different perspective, maybe a different interpretation. I think the first point really is sometimes statistics lie, or they don't tell the truth, or somewhere in between. You hear that the average usage of fertilizer is this per hectare, or the average yield is this per hectare. But really, is that the correct average we're talking about? If you are going to be aggregating zeros and zeros and zeros together with larger numbers, is that a really true reflection of the average that we really are talking about? If most of the farmers are farming to eat, not farming for surplus, they are not driven by a productivity and efficiency model, can we really batch up all those numbers and say this is average? shouldn't there be another way of calculating what the average is? Not only in terms of fertilizer use, but also in terms of yields themselves, because you're looking at a gardener, you're looking at someone who's farming to eat, and some of them who are semi-commercial, others commercial. You all lump it up and you come up with an average that can be embarrassing, to say the least, when you project it to the outside world. So let's be careful about what is it that we're using to measure. That speaks to the point of that farmers are not the same. They're widely differentiated. Just to repeat, some farm to eat, it could be more than 60%. Others produce surplus by accident, some by design. Others sell everything they produce. So it has to be horses for courses in terms of fertilizer or soil health sort of discussions. It makes me wonder also, what is the value proposition of soil health improvement, which might be a long journey, to someone who's waiting to get away, run away from agriculture at the very earliest opportunity? How do you sell it to them? To say, invest in soil. But that's not their business. They want to ship out quickly, as soon as possible. So, but there must be some creative ways of still achieving that end of soil health. Perhaps it has to be tied to some safety nets, some payment systems that are sort of tagged to practice rather than to productivity. If you're giving someone a handout, perhaps they also have to do A, B, C, D in terms of soil health. It's also a complicated matter. I don't understand soil health in as much as that I don't understand baby health, or let alone animal health or plant health. And most of us don't. So we need to be careful about whether we understand what actually happens down there in the soil. It might be that we don't know. And I'm hazarding a very good guess here. Most of us don't know. And we speak as if every farmer knows that this is what happens when you put fertilizer. We know that something happens, but do we really know the science of it? There must be a way of communicating that. Otherwise, we risk talking to ourselves all the time, and we get disappointed, frustrated, and still blame the farmer and not blame ourselves, which is part of what the game is about. It's a value chain issue, in my view. It's a value chain issue. If we don't address whether soil health directly leads to the healthiness of the pocket health, in other words, or money, then we probably are going to be missing the point. How does it talk to the viability and livelihoods of farmers at the end of the day? It's not only about increased production, it is about whether the outcomes of that are going to translate into decent livelihoods for farmers. If it doesn't, it might excite us that things have improved, but ultimately, is it worth it? I don't think it is. So let's really talk about that. And in any case, if someone sells inputs, sells fertilizer, sells a product, they take their profit there and then and walk away. They are not going to wait for a season that will never come anyway because it's hit by drought, but they walk away. Is that a fair system? Don't we look at some things perhaps that we need to look at? How do we ensure that whoever is along the chain is going to pay for it as well, rather than the farmer and the banker looking at each other at the end of the day when any input supplier, including fertilizer, have walked away, taken their profits. So it has to be a different innovation in terms of how we think, in terms of how we move forward. The other point really is it's not about technological fixes only. It's about human beings, it's about processes, it's about institutions around it, it's about policy. It's about a lot of things that needs to. Sometimes we talk about how do we do self-thought in a scientific way. It is much more about the ABCs of doing things that can be understood. A lot of us, we got family members, even ourselves, who are not in good health, but we probably don't know why we are not in good health, let alone knowing why the soil is not good in good health. So let's look at soil literacy. It's important. We might think that it is not. It's not exciting for researchers, but it's a simple thing. Understanding soils is important. And maybe the last couple of points before I get stopped is this point about that whatever brought us here, let's make sure that we are not going to repeat it in the other direction of soil health. whatever brought us here in terms of mineral fertilizer is not exactly going to be the same outcome if we go into the other direction, because there are software issues here, there are structural issues here that will need to be solved. So it's not just a change of this to that. But I quite like the idea, by the way, of increasing fertilizer production in Africa. But equally disappointed by the lack of discussions around organic fertilizer, increasing production of organic fertilizer. I've seen farms that are producing manure at industrial scale. Why are you not going for those as well? I'm not saying that mineral fertilizer is bad, but there could be other options. My final point, perhaps, is that it's important for us to speak together, to understand also the softer, maybe more fundamental issues that might actually shed more light into why things might be as they are now. But more fundamentally, what might be required in terms of social engineering or other forms of engineering to really give us the change that we all require at the end of the day. But I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words. Thanks.
Yeah, let's give a thank to. So, and thank you for the panel once again. Hey, please clap for them. So I would like to invite the President of AGRA, the former Prime Minister, and there's two ministers who are there to come to the podium for a picture with the best panel today. Please come over for a picture. All the panel, please. All the panel.